Welcome to the Islamic Library Association. We are dedicated to showcasing Muslims' rich contributions to literature and society while advocating for accurate representation and equity in libraries. Hello and assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Khalisah Harris. I'm a librarian and the founder and president of the Islamic Library Association, which advocates for the equitable representation of Islamic faith-based literature. We also highlight the contributions that Muslims make to the literary landscape. We want to thank you for tuning in to our conversation. Today, we are here with Dr. Ayaba Logan. Dr. Ayaba is a Muslim medical librarian, a global systems thinker, and a bridge builder dedicated to promoting health equity and social justice in research and scholarship. She uses diverse types of data to explore connections across people and problems, supporting optimized living and learning for all. Her work spans the intersection of living, learning, and loving, and she enjoys blending family time with curiosity about the world. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Ayaba.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, no problem. It is a pleasure to have you with us today. How are you?
I am doing great, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Well, your work is so inspiring, and we are honored that you are here to tell us more about who you are as a Muslim female medical librarian with a doctorate degree. So let's just start from the very beginning.
Uh-huh.
Can you tell us about your journey and how you became a medical librarian?
Sure. So when I was in undergrad or before going to undergrad, I wanted to be a medical doctor. And I say that because it's good to know where people are starting from. I went to Spelman College, and at Spelman, we had the Pre-Medical Association, Healthcare's Association, where they took us on a summer trip to Howard University. And at Howard University, we got to see their medical field and all of that. And I realized then I did not want to be a doctor because I wanted to be a family. I wanted to be a wife. I wanted a certain life that I figured I wasn't going to have, but I didn't know what was next. And so when I came back from that summer trip, I stayed in medicine, I stayed in biology, and eventually I made my way to sociology and public health where I fell in love. And with public health, I got into the real world from academia to the real world, and I mean from education into the real world, and was like, this is not the public health that I thought. I thought we were going to be having programs and solving problems and, and passing out condoms, and this is going to be amazing. And it wasn't. And somebody should have pulled my little naive and delusioned self and said, no, this is work. What you talking about is not work. But nobody did. They let me go. And then one day, one of my girlfriends, she's finishing up her doctorate at that time at Emory University, and she loved the library. She had been studying abroad and all of that, comes back and was like, I think you would love being a librarian. I was like, what? Now my experience was like most people's experience growing up. You went to the public library, you may or may not have talked to the people behind the desk. You didn't know titles, you don't know who these people are, you don't know their educational background. And if you're an inquisitive, go-getter kind of child, they weren't helpful. I mean, unfortunately, that's the reality sometimes. And so I didn't know what she was talking about. All these careers in the world, and librarianship was never on my radar. But the minute I looked into it, I said, this is it. It took research and it took education and it put it together. And I was like, sold. I immediately did my application for library school, went and loved it. Like loved it, loved it. I went to University of Alabama, Tuscaloosa. Shout out to them. Roll Tide. And I never say that. Roll Tide. And so I finished my degree. So mind you, so now I already have this public health experience. I have this medical experience because I continuously still tried to go to medical school, even though I realized it wasn't for me. Got accepted in certain ways and all of that. But with that, I was like, so what kind of librarianship can I put together? Like, what does this mean? And so this is how you know law has a path for you, because when I went on an internship while I was in library school, and they were building the National Health Program. It's not NIH, but there was a particular kind of museum, where National Health Museum, they were trying to build and get started, and it started off digital. And so I did an internship with them and was like, oh, this is a thing. Like, okay, I can see this. And then I did another internship with military, and so I got to see a little bit of the military. But um life course, marriage, family, children, we went all over the world, came back. And when I came back is when I started applying, and I started applying specifically for medical librarian jobs. And I got two offers at the same time. One came in a phone call that said, "We love your application, come for an interview." And one came in an email that I never found until years later. I was like, oh, how did this get lost in email? But that's how you know Allah has given you a path. And so I went with the one that made a phone call and was very excited. It was the Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston, South Carolina, and that first year for the interview, they laid out the red carpet. I made my istikhara. I asked of Allah, and I said, "This is it. Make it easy, 'cause I'm good in Florida right now. I'm good." But Allah made it easy. They made it easy. It was a lovely experience. And I was worried because it was the first job that I was going to go on, a job interview I was going to go on wearing a hijab. And I was like, I don't know what this is going to be, but I'm not compromising my deen, right? Like I just got it. I understand it. I wear it. I'm in. I'm all in. I hear and I obey. But I was still nervous about wearing this hijab for the interview, and so I did, and everything was fine, and I have no issues. I made it easy, and that's really how I got into medical librarianship. Like, it was because I already had the public health medicine kind of background. It just made sense. And it was an academic institution. So I really didn't consider the other possibilities. Like, I kind of thought about public, but I don't even remember applying for any public librarian positions, because there's very few that do health and health sciences. So literally, Allah guided my steps. Hmm.
Mm. So, speaking about how Allah does as He wills,
Yes.
how has your life as a Muslim influenced your approach to librarianship?
Ooh, that's a good question. I genuinely don't know, because it's such a part of my identity. I bring it with me everywhere. It's kind of like when we want to know, how does blackness affect what you're doing, or how do you use blackness in it? I'm like, I just am. It just is. It's like air for me, and I'm breathing. But I can tell you how other people have used it. And one of the things, so at the Medical University of South Carolina, I don't know this officially, but I do believe I'm the first Muslim librarian they've ever had. I think I'm only like the second or third Black librarian they've ever had historically. I think. I know that the librarians who work there will correct the record if I am inaccurate, and I hope they do, because there wasn't that many. So anyway, okay.
Yes.
But my point of saying that is, I'm definitely, as a Muslim, I was one of the first. And what I discovered years later is that after COVID, people started to then be like, oh, we need to include diversity and equity and justice. We need to have various perspectives in our classroom. And so I started to get invited to other classrooms. So let me back up. The way MUSC librarians worked is that in my department, the research and education department, we had liaison roles. And so I was a liaison to graduate studies in nursing, public health, and nurse anesthesia. So those were my main departments. But I was also that person who would just pick up random events and departments and groups that didn't have a connection already, just because I'm a social butterfly. I like to chit chat. And so I would. And so one of these times I appeared, and somebody from the physician assistant program, I cannot think of her name right now, was like, "Can you come to my class and do a lecture?" And I was like, "Absolutely." So the first and second time I did the lecture was online because that's what we do. But the third time, when I was almost finished with my doctorate, I got to do it in person. And so that way I got to mix being Muslim, because of course I always bring that into the room, being a librarian, and now I have this extra level on understanding what's happening with breastfeeding and in the hospitals and how it affects you as a student, and how will it affect you as a provider for your patients, and then how will it affect you when you become a patient, if you ever become a patient and need help breastfeeding. And so you get all of that. And I was just like, I love this. This just my world, where you standing at the podium and you are expressing, and for me it's not just about standing and talking. It's about when the students are interacting back and they're asking questions and they're engaged and they're like, wow, I had not even considered how many breastfeeding pods or places on campus do we have if I were to get pregnant while I'm in my school program. Like, how do I do this? How do you do this? Okay, let's talk about it. So yeah, so I was that medical librarian that branched off and did all sorts of other things related, but love it, absolutely. I did presentations. So the Muslim students decided to do a webinar series as well, and I was one of the speakers. And we talked a lot about the differences, like what would a healthcare provider need to know when a woman comes in looking like me?
Okay.
What do they need to know? How do they need to respond? And one of my biggest things to tell them is you ask questions, because she comes in looking like me. You may get two or three different responses. You may get the ones that are so nervous, they don't want you to touch them. They really want a female provider, but they can't advocate for themselves. You may get the ones that are like, it doesn't matter. I'm in an emergency and whoever is treating me is who's treating me. And you get anything in between. And so that was a wonderful time to have those kind of conversations where you can really see what is necessary and what's needed in the clinical environment for Muslim patients, which again has a little bit to do with medical librarianship, because that's the health literacy side of it, but for the providers and not for the patients. So I definitely brought it everywhere, everywhere.
Perfect. So,
Mhm.
do you feel that being a Muslim, you said you take it everywhere you go because it's who you are, you know? It's like your air, as you have said. So, do you feel that being a Muslim has made your work as a medical librarian easier, more challenging, or both?
Ooh. So, okay. So for my work, I think it's made it easier for me to do what I do. Um,
Okay.
but I think for the public that I'm serving, I think it's been a challenge for them. Um,
Okay.
and I'll tell you, I'll give you a couple stories. So
All
one
right.
of the reasons why I thought it was a challenge for other people is, as Muslim women, I generally do not shake men's hands. Like, don't touch you. I don't, we don't need to have that kind of interaction. But for men who have particular egos, what you mean you can't shake my hand? And then want to get mad and start having conversations with your superiors and all of that. And so it's like, you don't have a right to my body. Even if it's a handshake. If I don't want to extend my hand, and I explain it to you, no, I'm Muslim, I don't shake gentlemen's hands. Most of the time, that explanation is easy and fine, and everybody's okay. But there's every now and again, you get an ego and an arrogant one that's like, oh no. And then I'm like, but you can't just have access to my body because
Yeah.
you choose
Mm-hmm.
to. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, so that those situations were always kind of interesting when they happen, and they didn't happen often.
Mm-hmm.
But when it does, you're like, "What's wrong with you that you just need to touch me?"
Yes. I understand that. But I
Hmm.
think that I think that's a really good example that you ultimately do have the right. I think we're not on who gets to touch you. But I
Exactly,
think
Muslim or not. Right.
Muslims uphold it more or maybe feel more confident in stating where they stand. Yeah, everyone has a right to who they want to touch or not. And but with that, I think there comes a lot of misconceptions. So, what is one common misconception about Muslim professionals, or you can say librarians specifically, um, that you would encounter besides shaking hands? A misconception.
Imma go with I don't really know in that case. And the reason and why is because I am quite social and vocal,
Okay.
um, that if you came in the door with any misconceptions, you generally they were gone by the time you encountered me, right? Because at this point, I'm here to help you, and I'm confident, and I'm talking about what your issue is. And the minute that gets out into the community, then everybody come find you, Muslim or not. Like, when
Okay.
students know and when faculty know that you can help them with their issues, oh, people come out the woodwork and you're like, how did you get my number? You over in XYZ department. Right before my time at MUSC ended, I had graduate students in the college graduate studies find me. And I was like, I have never given a lecture or done anything. How did they find me? I didn't even ask. I was like, okay, here's how I'm gonna help you. And you just do. Same thing in the hospital. Like, people would just, when you had a problem and you've helped somebody, somebody else will find you. So that's to say that the misconceptions that people may have had, and usually it's the stereotypical stuff that Muslim women are very quiet, and
Mm,
those kind of things. I'm a black woman. We ain't had that problem, right? Like, I'm very much so vocal. So I think, though, nobody said it, but it was probably a surprise to them. And because on my campus, it was slightly diverse, the Muslim men that are on campus might have been more like, what is she doing? Right? Like, you're not behaving as our uh, definition of, and I'm not going to say cultures, our definition of how Muslim women should be, or how we're used to Muslim women behaving. But nobody ever came and brought that information to me. It was kinda like, just a
over
little bit in
there.
the background. Mhm. Yeah. Alhamdulillah, I didn't have those problems because, one of the things that, I will say is that this hijab is such a protection, in a way in which, if you never not wore it, to go from not wearing it to wearing it, you will understand how Allah keeps certain people from you and certain information from you. And so when you are on that path,
Yeah.
you don't know. And I can also tell you it brings good, right? So one of the things that I usually tell people is that when you're wearing it, people all of a sudden, in particular, to open the door for you. Race to open, beat you to the door to make sure they open the door and hold it for you, and are glad to do so. And it's like, I don't have no skin, nothing showing. I don't even always have my face showing. I was trying to decide if I was gonna have on a niqab today or not. But I'm like, they see you in a different light. And so I didn't really have as much negativity from the outside. Now, my inside my department and inside the library, I will just say, um, yeah, I think that people would be surprised at the level of drama that goes on in a library.
Mm,
If you don't work there, if you have never worked at a library, you would be shocked. And I have a couple of friends who are not librarians, and they now work in libraries, and they're like, I thought librarians were quiet, nice
mm.
people, and you get in
That
there and
is
you
the
like,
misconception right there.
huge, right? Like, the power struggles, It's like, can I just do my job? Like, I'm just trying to help
Yeah.
people. I'm just trying to help people. That's it. And y'all system don't work, especially in South Carolina. Y'all system don't work. I could say that. Mhm.
Mm.
Reimbursement culture. Stop. Okay. Mhm.
So, with the challenges, as
Mhm.
well as the acknowledgments as a Black Muslim medical librarian, do you wish
Mhm.
that more Muslims pursued careers in medical librarianship?
Absolutely. Like, okay, so and this is strictly from being from going to the Medical Library Association conference for at least 8 to 10 years.
Mhm.
I had been the absolute only one to at least attend the conference. Now I heard of a couple, there's a white lady in Texas, there's an Asian, two Asian men, one in Arizona, one in Florida, that at least by year 7 or 8 started to show up. But I
Okay.
had been the only one for at least the first 5 years and was shocked, and I'm trying to figure out, like, I can't be the only Muslim medical librarian, like, really? Like, I recognize I'm probably the only Black one, but how is it that I'm the only one? And I know of one other person, I don't know what her race ethnicity was, she was in Virginia. So, I heard of a couple, but I ain't seen any until let me see, until I started to be more and more and more vocal and be like, where is everybody? And then all of a sudden, like I said, the guy in Florida and the guy in Arizona, they showed up. And when the guy in Arizona saw me, baby, it was like a reunion. And he and I ain't even from the same culture, but it was one of those feelings of like, I am so glad to see you, my sister, right? Like now I'm your sister. I am so glad. Like if he could have reached out and hugged me, he would have, but we did not do that because we Muslim.
Yes.
But it was just that energy. It was just like and wanted to just chit chat and talk, and I was just like, "Yeah, I understand." You it's real lonely out there in librarianship. It is. When I went to JCLC in New Mexico, I had never been in a room with so many Muslim librarians in my life. I was like, this is amazing. I had sisters from the archives, we had public librarians, we had academic librarians, but again, I'm the only medical librarian. And I'm like, where are we? What career field are we in? What are we doing? Where are we? Right. I'm gonna go with where are we? And I think from a Muslim perspective, medical librarianship in general, because now it's more female and you can be more meaning mostly, and you can possibly work remote, it makes more sense to be in librarianship if you want a career. And finally, at the end of my tenure, the other thing is I was a kaleidoscope mentor and I had a Muslim mentee, and she is a lovely young lady. She is excellent. She's in North Carolina, and we keep in touch to this day. And so there are people coming in, but it is few, few and far between. And I think we do need it because I think as Muslims, we think differently. Allah already told us in the Quran to seek knowledge. And so librarianship seems like a natural fit because that's what we're doing all the time is seeking knowledge and sharing that knowledge that we seek. So now we get that extra blessing on top of that. And so, yeah, and your health is so important, right? Like we talk about that in the Dean as well. To take care of your health before you don't have it. And in medical librarianship, and there's two kinds of medical librarianships. There's the academic side, and then there's the hospital side. And so, oftentimes, the hospital side, and I have never been a hospital librarian, but from what I've seen, they deal more with quick needs of the providers and patients. Whereas on the academic side, sometimes we deal with patients, but real rarely, because oftentimes there's another librarian that does that. But we do more of the research, and then sometimes we're also with the medical team. But I personally had never had a nurse call me from the floor to say they needed some information on anything. Mostly it was the students getting their degrees and then researchers. So just to make sure I specify those two different kinds. But absolutely, it is a wonderful field. Now, it could be that it might feel intimidating, and I ain't intimidated by much. But Allah told us to seek knowledge. So you can do this. You can learn. You can read. You can find an area within sciences that you enjoy and find a path for it. So,
Okay.
absolutely. Long answer to say yes. We need
No.
more. And we need more because patients need it, right? Providers need it. Um, it's just necessary.
So
Mhm.
you're saying that we need it. I agree with you 100%, but it's not only that, okay, Muslims need care. Sometimes Muslims, especially Muslim women, may have a different idea of what care is.
Mhm.
And that should be respected. The same way you gave an example of, okay, you do not shake hands. Well, okay, you also talked about how a Muslim woman might not want a male provider to assist her with breastfeeding and things like that. So would you say that more Muslim medical librarians would assist in making sure that Muslim women's needs are met?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that there is the ability to marriage and to merge those things. That I think is kind of specialized though.
Okay.
I think you would have to be that person that's interested in not just providing the informational resources, but also taking it that step further to be able to show you more. And yes, we absolutely need that because one of the things that I was able to do as a Muslim librarian is to assist people who could not advocate for themselves or who needed advocating for them and on their behalf. And I think that that is absolutely a part of our dean, and I definitely brought that perspective often. And it wasn't one of those like loud, boisterous, we need a protest kind of thing. It was the small, everyday stuff. You see somebody in the library on the floor looking for something. You're like, "Do you need help with something?" That's it. Just genuinely, do you need help with something? And then help them solve whatever the problem is. If it's a place to pump, if it's do we have places to pump? Is it who can I go to for this information? Just being that resource. Like I think that in addition to the teaching and the research are the things that I really loved about it and that we can absolutely do and need to. So it's not necessarily you need to be the one showing how to breastfeed or helping somebody with the suturing, but there is a way to as librarians to go that extra step and help provide the information and the resources in a deeper manner than just, transactions. So, yeah, it's doable.
Mhm. So do you feel that Muslim librarians are adequately recognized within medical librarianship or within the librarian realm as a whole?
No. I-
You touched on it, but I wanted it to be more specific.
Um, no, no. But okay, so part of the problem I think is that we do it to ourselves. And what do
Okay.
I mean by that? I think that because after JCLC, and I hope my sisters do not get upset. One of the things we wanted to do was to bring a group together. And I think that that is where stuff starts to get hard is coming together to form like your organization, which is amazing. Like I've been watching you. Um that's kind of what we needed. And I'm so glad that you were able to create it, and I hope that that becomes bigger where we can come to conferences because that was part of the problem. Is part of the problem is that there's so few of us that until we come to a conference, we don't even know each other exist. In my library, the director and the current director and one of her colleagues that were all at VCU together, they have had a Muslim librarian they work with in the medical field, and the stories Very few stories, but the stories were helpful. But I never got in contact. It wasn't like one of those like, oh, you should call her. Here's her email address. Here's her phone number.
Mm.
Like I don't even know the woman's name. And if I were to go to VCU's page, she probably doesn't have her picture up, or because oftentimes Muslims generally we try not to have our image out there, right? And so so there's no connection. That's what I'm trying to say. Is no, we're such a small group. Like Black librarianship is also small, right? Because if we're comparing across races and ethnicities, to see Black librarians is like, wow, you have to go to the Black Librarian Conference and then you'll be like, oh, there's
Oh,
so many of us, right? Even within the medical librarianship, we have AMLA, the African American Medical Library Alliance or Association. And that is when you will be like, oh, there's so many Black people, but there's like one at each institution, right? And
yes.
the MUSC had, because I'm not there anymore, 4 at one point in time. They down to 3, but they back up for the 4 because somebody will be starting new soon. But my point is, that's the biggest that any institution has, right? 4 Black people. It's funny to be able to say, but it just goes to show that if an institution has 1, like most institutions have none, and that's a Black people. Let alone you add Muslim on top of that, like
It's an additional
where we
layer.
at? I mean, really. It's there's just we can't have any representation because we don't even know we don't even exist to each other, which is the other problem. And so we can't have broader representation if we think we're just an island of one. And because though we're also spread out across the nation, it's even harder to come together and make those connections.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's part of what the Islamic Library Association with this specific series of interviews are doing. We do talk about the contributions that Muslims have within the literary landscape in general when we're talking about the Muslim authors, publishers, illustrators, and educators. But when we're talking about the representation in libraries, I felt that it is very important to show that Muslims are also contributing to the librarianship room as well. We're not just creating books. No, we're dealing with the books. We're dealing with behind the scenes. We work in these professions, and we are, like you said, we are marginalized within a marginalized group of librarianships throughout the nation. So
Mhm.
it's not only for patrons to know that we exist, but it's equally,
Mm.
even if not more important, for us to know about each other.
Yes.
And I agree 100% with you that we should have specific representation at these conferences and things like that. I know that libraries in general, they're often focusing on the needs of patrons, or in your case,
Mhm,
patients, right?
mhm.
So, in your experience, do you feel that the needs of Muslim staff are being recognized and supported?
No. Okay, so let me tell the story. And, I'm very glad that it has a happy ending, so nobody will call me crazy. But for 9 years, MUSC did not have an adequate place for Muslims to make prayer.
Mhm,
9 years, and I'm talking the 9 years I was there. So it didn't
mhm.
exist from the founding time to the time I got there, and then advocating for 9 years. Alhamdulillah, at the end, we finally got a place for that we have been designated for multi-purpose, our prayer room. But like the level of advocacy was extraordinary. It took the executive director of student affairs, the previous one, the current one. It took me as a Muslim student advisor, and it finally, after after somebody pulled my coattail and said, "Yaba, get the students to talk to the provost because they're not going to listen to faculty and staff. The students have to advocate." Now, mind you, I'm talking to students who are in medical school, who are in nursing school, pharmacy school, physician assistant programs. they are so much more worried about their programs and their studies. But I'm like, if you don't advocate for this now for yourselves, where are you gonna pray? You gonna pray in the stairwell again. And especially my female Muslim students, like, where are y'all gonna pray? Okay, the men can pray, find them a little corner of anything. Where are you gonna pray? And they've broken out prayer in the library. They've used my office. We pray wherever we can because we Muslim. We gonna make salat. But wouldn't it be nice to have a gathering place, especially for Jummah, because the place that we used to pray is not adequate, and it's like, so until we pushed them to do it, it wasn't happening. And then it still feels like it took an act of Allah for them to find a space to happen. But
It
alhamdulillah,
did.
it happened. And I will add to it, one of the things that I did while I was at MUSC was what was the name of this program? Bright Scholars. I did it twice. And within that program, we had to give a capstone presentation. And so the first capstone presentation I did was about data and collecting data because of course nobody knows how many Muslims were on our campus. Nobody, it's not something that we really count. Did I say that? Oh, I
Yes.
said that. It's
Yes,
not
you did.
something we count. We might count how many black people we have and how many Hispanics and how many Asians, but we definitely don't ask about religion in a state with religious freedom. Why wouldn't we ask? What's the problem? Okay. So we had to get that data first, and that was the first and last time they did that survey. I don't know if they ever gonna do it again, but I used the data. And so then the second capstone I did was to say, look what your peers are doing. University of Maryland in particular was amazing. When I say if I ever get sick, I want to go there for care because all the nurses automatically knew if you come in looking like this that you need a halal menu. You have a halal menu for your hospital. Really, MUSC does not have a halal menu for their hospital. You might be able to get you a kosher if you know to ask. But if you don't know to ask, it's not gonna get offered to you. But a halal menu, no ma'am. They will look at you like, what is that and what do you mean? And so it's those kind of basic things. So taking the data from across the nation of their former peer institutions to be able to say who's doing what, I think was another advocacy moment to be able to say, if y'all are really striving to be the best in healthcare and you have X percentage of Muslim patients coming through your doors, X percentage of Muslims who work on your campuses, what are you doing? And eventually, with the students advocating, the last provost, who has since retired, was like, "Okay, let's figure this out because they're not gonna leave me alone until we get it." Um, Now, I could talk about what they gave us, but Imma just be thankful and grateful for the blessing that we got something.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well,
Right.
I will
Now, I'll
say,
tell you the other thing. The other
okay,
thing I wanna tell you about being Muslim and being vocal is that then people, like the GME office, when Muslims came to interview for residency or jobs, don't you know they wanted to call me and have me a part of the interview process or have me talk to people and give them information? Oh, the wife wants to know, where's the halal this and how to do this. Can you have a conversation with them, Yaba? I can, yes. I ain't the right person to because Imma tell you the truth. If you have other options, let's talk about what your options are, and let me tell you what South Carolina is offering. But it is possible, but South Carolina takes a whole lot of dua. It takes a whole lot of your individual effort.
and you also have to have staff who are willing. Because my thing is, it's one thing to be representative within your organization, but there's
Mhm,
another thing to be represented publicly where people see
mhm.
you and recognize
Yes,
all that you do and all of who you
yes.
are. Opposed to, oh, well, you're gonna have representation right here in this little spot right here. Okay, but that's minimizing me in other spaces because I'm helping
Mhm,
much, like you said, way beyond my job duties. Way
mhm,
more than my job description entails.
mhm.
Yes, I think it's more the representation in your building or your specific organization when you're doing massive work.
No, you just brought something up. And one of the things that I would tell Muslims in particular is that Allah already gave you permission. You don't need to wait for nobody else's permission to do and to advocate and to be then what you already received from Allah.
And so it's a lot. We're talking about
We're talking about
the
Allah.
blessing and the burden of
Mhm.
being a Black Muslim female librarian, but let's just look at it in general, more broad, as a professional, as a wife, as a mother, all these different roles, all these major hats that just intertwine. It's all of who you are to make you whole. What
Mhm.
keeps you motivated and being innovative and to build these bridges within your line of work?
Woo. So much is given, much is required. Right? Like I heard something the other day because sometimes you get tired and you get frustrated. And I heard something the other day, and I don't know who said it. So whoever out there that said it, my apologies. I ain't plagiarizing you. But they said, remember that your blessing is for them. It's not for you. And so while that hasn't always been my motivation, when I heard it, I was like, oh, now that makes sense. That makes sense. Because you were given so much, you have more to help and you just should. You can't. And I will add to that to be able to say, I've never been the person, like I've never understood how do people do research and then let it sit on the shelf? Like what was the point? Do something with it. Like it can't just sit on the shelf. I don't even understand that logic. Yeah, even as a medical librarian, I always kind of had that like maybe I should go get some clinical skills just a little bit because for whatever reason, I used to go to a conference and every now and again somebody would pass out in front of me. And I'd be like, what is going on? Like, why me? But you don't even have time to ask. You could just, you could use the basic medical skills that you have. So in life, you just have to have more. And I guess because I have a little bit more, I give a little bit more. But it's just innately in me. It's just innately in me. And I think that becoming Muslim or reverting to Islam has brought it out of me more. I felt even more of a sense of I have to do this, right? Like these are the gifts Allah has given me. They're not just for me. I have to share them with the world, whether you like it or not, right? Whether you like it or not, because
Right.
the truth.
The truth is the truth. You are absolutely correct.
Mhm. But
So,
I wanna say also to say that I think because I have that perspective and I'm so vocal about it, and people might not know how to interact with it, I think that it has allowed other people, even if they did it in a twisted way, to realize that they were not good supporters of me as a Muslim in the library. And so how can we as a profession be better supporters of Muslims in libraries? But I don't think the conversation happened the way it should. But I think it's a conversation that is going to happen and should because Muslims, whether they're coming in as students, whether they're coming in as faculty, whether they're coming in as patients, they are coming in, and librarians need to know how to interact, need to understand how to be culturally sensitive, how be culturally have how to have cultural humility, um, how they just do. And the best way is ask questions. That's it. Ask questions. Don't assume. Don't think you know because we just people.
so how do you hope that your work impacts future generations of
Ooh,
librarians and researchers?
ooh, that's a good one. So in the years that I have had a career or have a career because I'm transitioning into being a children's and a published author and having my own publishing company. We'll come back and talk about
Yes,
that.
we will.
Not
Yes, we.
today, but in that career, like I really want my work to help people help management to understand that it is their responsibility, duty, and obligation
Mhm.
to support their staff.
Yeah.
Whole lot of
Uh, oh, well, I think that your work definitely stands as a foundation for improvement and enhancing uh, things
humanity.
and
Mhm,
yes, within humanity. I mean,
mhm.
what's humanity without health? I'm sorry. You can be the greatest person in the world, but if you're sick, uh,
Man,
not much you're going to be
you
able
are
to do.
suffering.
No, that is all that I have for you. Would you like to add anything else?
I would say that anybody going into any profession, particularly the librarianship, go in wide-eyed, ask questions, know what the pros and cons are, but recognize that you're going to be dealing with people, and people come with their own faults, they come with their own situations, but that doesn't mean the work itself is not impactful and moving, and you shouldn't do it. Do not let other people discourage you and all the drama that they bring and all the things that they not include you in or try not to allow you to do. Where there is a will, there is a way. And
Mm,
if it is what you wanted to do and is within the guides of your faith, your belief, and your values, the will can happen. Find a way. Like, don't let people discourage you that way, because there's a lot of discouragement. But me,
mm. Well, I really appreciate your time. It has been very insightful, and I look forward to staying in touch with you, but especially once you write your book and have
yes,
your publishing company set. Yes,
yes,
so we'll have the
yes,
Islamic Library Association interview you again with
absolutely,
another role and title and hat to add to your memoir. Really?
absolutely,
Perfect.
like I'm ready.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for your time again. I appreciate it, and we look forward to talking to you soon in the show. Yeah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Join the Islamic Library Association, and together we can shape a more inclusive future for literature.